Hello and welcome to Building Trust with Food. We officially get started tomorrow, but I'm putting you into the group today to give you a chance to get to know each other, come and say hello, and just kind of find your feet before we get started tomorrow. So Building Trust with Food. I have had a very disordered and very dysfunctional relationship with food. For anyone who's been following me, you will have heard me share part of my own very disordered relationship with food, and part of that has been my lack of trust in myself around food, around my body, and around my eating. And when I think about trust, it's not just been around food. I have been a prolific people pleaser for as long as I can remember, and that kind of just started through my experiences as a child. And when you spend your life people pleasing, you kind of lose sight of who you are, and that generates a mistrust in ourselves. So when I think about trust, it's not just been around food that I didn't trust myself. It has been around many different areas of my life, certainly relationships, certainly my career. I have spent my life doubting myself, not trusting myself. So our food relationship is complex, and we're not going to kind of totally fix it in the next 7 days. But what I'd really like for you, what I'd really like to offer you over the next 7 days is a space where you can really start to explore and understand your own food relationship, and also start to look how diets and diet culture are actually part of the problem, not part of the solution. And the next 7 days are not going to be me just giving you action, because I'm a big believer that sometimes, what we think is the problem or what we think is the answer is not always it kind of might temporarily mask what's going on. But sometimes we just need to spend a little bit of time in awareness, starting to gain a little bit of awareness around what's going on in terms of our food relationship, how we see our bodies, our relationships to diets and diet culture. So spending just a little bit of time actually stepping back and gaining some insight and awareness about how we are currently relating to ourselves and diet culture and diets as we stand at present. So this is how we're going to kind of start over the next couple of days. We're not going to just start diving into me saying to you, do this, do that, because I want us to grow into this process over the next 7 days, because spending some time pausing and just spending some time around where you're at currently can offer some really valuable understanding and awareness. So the first couple of days we are going to spend a bit of time just exploring your current food relationship. We're also going to look at diets and how diet culture has an influence over creating self-doubt and mistrust. And then as we move through the week, we're going to start moving into more getting you doing some little experiments and starting to look at different aspects of our eating. So I'm just going to check on my notes. We're going to look at food rules. We're going to look at the relationship that you have, the power that food has over you. We're going to sort of touch on mindfulness. We're going to touch on what trust actually looks like, because for so many of us, we look for answers external to us, and all the while we're doing that does reinforce the mistrust process within ourselves. But each day I'm going to talk about this stuff, and we're going to build over the week. So a bit of housekeeping, so you all kind of know how this program is going to be run. You all are in this group, so every day you will receive an email from me at 6 o'clock in the morning. You'll get an email. That email will contain a short video that is me talking a little bit about the subject that we're going to be talking about that day, and then it's going to invite you to do a little bit of work, and that might be to just sit and reflect on where you're at currently, and it will be guided by some questions. So the whole purpose of this 7 days is to really get you starting to think differently, and it's not about overloading you or giving you too much to do. So what I would say, and this is really, really important, because how many times do we make promises to ourselves? How many times do you sign up to a challenge or a focus and you're all keen on day one, and then by day 3 you're sort of fallen off that wagon? And there's no irony there. That's kind of almost like a parallel process to how we often approach weight loss. We're all keen at the start, we're hopeful that this is going to be the answer and things can be different, and by day 3 life has got busy or we've just kind of disconnected from that process. So I don't want that to happen for you. So this is something I will reinforce. I reinforce it in the written post as well. What I want you to do today, one of the actions for you today, is to go and schedule out 20 minutes a day for the next 7 days for you to come and do the work. Okay, and that can be a time whatever suits you. That's why I'm not going to run this program with it as lives, because I don't want that pressure that you feel that you have to be on at a certain day. So the video and the post will go into the group at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you can choose a time in the day where that suits you to make that 20-minute space to come in, watch the video. If you can stretch to half an hour, that's brilliant, because part of long-term healing is about making time for ourselves. And I know that's a biggie. One of the things that creates self-doubt and creates mistrust is that we spend our lives doing and giving to other people and not taking the time to do that for ourselves. So from the start, this challenge is going to be encouraging you to start creating some time for yourselves. But if you don't put it in your diary, it is not going to happen. So before you do anything in this group, I want you to go to your calendar and schedule out 20 or 30 minutes for yourself each day to come and connect in the group, to watch the video and to engage in the activity that I'm setting for you. Or you're going to get to the end of the 7 days and it's going to be another one of those programs that you haven't engaged in and that you haven't done anything about. And that kind of often will again reinforce the lack of trust that you have with yourself. So go and do that now. The next thing I want to talk about is confidentiality and safety. I am a trained therapist, and whenever I'm working with clients, whether that's one-to-one or in groups, it is something I talk about. Confidentiality is so important, and what I mean by that is, we're quite a big group, and some of the questions and some of the work that we're going to be doing may invite some of you to share some stuff that's quite personal to you, and I want this space to be a place where you feel safe enough to do that. But when I'm creating safe spaces, it's really important that we all adhere to the confidentiality ground rule. I'm not a big one for rules, but confidentiality and safety are really important to me. And what I mean by that is if people share parts of their personal story, it's really important that that doesn't get taken outside of this group, certainly not with names attached to it. So it is something that's really important to me, and I ask you to adhere to that. We want to create a safe space, and in order for that to happen, it's important that we have a confidentiality agreement. And I will be posting a separate post to this welcome post where it just talks about confidentiality and safety. And if you wouldn't mind going over and just popping a heart on there or write in the comments that you agree to that confidentiality agreement. The other one is safety. What do I mean by safety? Again, as you're going through this process, some stuff might come up for you that kind of unsettles you a little bit. And it's really important that you keep yourself emotionally safe as we go through this process. So I'm giving you permission that if something comes up for you that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, reach out and come and talk to me, or put something in the group if you feel brave enough to. What I don't want to happen is for you to get a bit overwhelmed by what's coming up for you and step away from the process. So your safety is ultimately your responsibility, but equally I'm running this program, and if something comes up that you want to talk through, please reach out and come and talk to me so we can work through it. It's in those little moments where we experience some resistance. If we can ask for help and reach out and work through that, that could be the difference between you backing away and withdrawing and actually moving forward. So confidentiality and safety, really, really important. So the next 7 days. So I've talked about that you're going to get an email at 6 o'clock in the morning. The same time the post is going to go in this group. So you will have Each day there will be a post at 6 o'clock. There'll be a little bit of written text and there'll be a short video from me, and there will be a little exercise for you to do each day. And over the next 7 days, we're going to build. So initially we're going to just start exploring your current relationship with food and your body and eating. Awareness is really important. We're not going to just dive into taking action. You know, it's so important that we start to gain some insight and awareness of what's really going on for us, because quite often we don't ever look at things in that level of detail, and you're going to be guided with questions. And the more you can actually spend some time on this, you know, make time for yourself. Don't cram it in like 10 minutes somewhere. And I do appreciate we have busy lives, but the more you can actually take some time out for yourselves and really engage in these exercises at a deeper level, the more you're going to get from it. So we're going to start with an exploration of your current food and body and eating relationship. We're then going to start to look at diet culture and how diet culture is part of the problem and not the solution, how diet culture creates self-doubt and mistrust. And then we're going to really get you looking at the specifics that you can relate to. How are you currently reinforcing some of these patterns, and how are they reinforcing your mistrust around food? We're then going to start looking at food rules and the power that food has over you, because this is a really, there's key elements within diet culture that so many of us are adhering to, whether that's consciously or unconsciously. You know, a lot of the ways we see food and we talk about food and we talk about our bodies are automatic. They're so ingrained in us that we do it without thinking about it. And even if you feel like you have stepped away from diets and diet culture, you know, which is ACE, you know, people around us are still very entrenched in it. So we are constantly being surrounded, social media, you know, we're constantly surrounded by talk about how our bodies should and shouldn't look, how we should and shouldn't be eating. And that stuff all influences self-doubt and how we trust or don't trust ourselves around food. So then we're going to kind of start to look at some practicalities of how we start to build trust with food. I'm not going to list them all here. That will, you know, as we work through days 4, day 5, day 6 and day 7, that's when I'm going to be inviting you to try out some little experiments that, if you sustain these and you keep these going, are going to have a significant impact on you starting to build trust with food. So I'm really excited to be delivering this. This is a brand new little exploration focus that I'm running. So really looking forward to run it for the first time and getting to know each of you a little bit better. I'm very engaged. You know, when I work with clients, I want to get to know them. I want to understand what's going on for them. So if you post anything in the group, I'll be there reading it and responding. And this group is, you know, whenever I run group processes, I'm fascinated by groups. I think there's huge amounts of healing, and I find groups really therapeutic because we often hold guilt and shame around our bodies and around our eating, we often don't talk about them. We talk about how we're really feeling in quite a superficial way. And this is why I have the confidentiality and safety rule, because it encourages us to create a space where we can start to talk openly about how we're feeling, how misunderstood we're feeling. And that in itself, when we can open up and we can be honest about what's going on for us, that in itself is hugely therapeutic and powerful. And that's what I'd really like to get. It is quite a big group, so, you know, but I work very, very hands-on, and that's why I give you permission if something comes up for you, or if you have a bit of an aha moment and you don't know where to go with it, come and talk to me. Let's work through it. Let's dig a bit deeper. Let's understand it. So that's enough from me. What I'd like you to do now is come along and introduce yourself below this video. You know, tell us a little bit about you, what made you sign up to the Building Trust with Food program, and also what would you like to get out of it at the end of the 7 days. And this is really helpful and useful information for me to manage your expectations, but also to sort of feed that into each of the days and make sure that I'm meeting some of your expectations. So just to summarise, the things you need to do today: make those that time slot in your diary, 20 or 30 minutes every single day for the next 7 days. Make that promise to yourself and keep that promise to yourself. Go over to this confidentiality and safety post and just pop a heart in there to show that you've read it out, or put in the comments agree or done or whatever. Really, really important, that one. And then finally, come and introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about you and also what made you sign up and what you'd like to get from the program. And I will see you all at 6 o'clock in the morning with our day one exploration of your current food, body and eating relationship. See you all tomorrow.